Star Trek Online is a game that had a turbulent development cycle. Work on the title started back in 2004 with a studio called Perpetual Entertainment. But they weren't so perpetual because they went bankrupt before they could complete the game. So in 2008, Cryptic Studios, who had previously worked on City of Heroes and Champions Online, stepped in to finish development. Things seemed to be going well ahead of launch as the game featured a solid grasp of Star Trek lore and narration by the late Leonard Nimoy. Cryptic also had a robust amount of promotion to get Trek fans excited leading up to the game's 2010 release, including an option to buy a lifetime subscription for $200 up front. Regrettably, reviews were less than enthusiastic, and many found the gameplay repetitive. The game's free-to-play system was launched at the beginning of 2012, and those lifetime subscribers found themselves with a new monthly allowance of premium currency for their trouble. The good parts of Star Trek Online are definitely the space missions. They're not only enjoyable, but they're a relatively unique form of gameplay among MMOs. There are three main categories of Federation starships: escorts, cruisers, and science vessels, and they seem to fill the roles of DPS, tank, and controller when you take them at face value. But since all four sides of your ship have their own hit point gauge to measure damage to your shields, maneuverability has to be taken into account at all times. If you've got a strong escort vessel with plenty of power at the front of your ship, but you sit in place and keep your forward shield exposed, you can be taken down by a less powerful cruiser if they outmaneuver you and launch a volley of torpedoes at your hull. Traditional MMO combat strategy doesn't apply to ship-to-ship combat, so it definitely makes the game feel fresh. You also have bridge officers to man the tactical, science, and engineering stations on your ship, and they can learn a variety of abilities to help you keep your ship from exploding. These officers are customizable characters with skills that vary depending on their species, and the species include iconic Star Trek races such as Vulcans, Ferengi, and Bajorans. Bridge officer abilities can be retrained for a price to maximize your effectiveness in space combat or ground combat. Speaking of ground combat, that's the bad part of Star Trek Online. The space missions feel like an innovative way to breathe life into a tired formula, but ground missions feel like a mediocre copy of better games. Like your bridge officers, your captain can specialize in either tactical, science, or engineering abilities, but only a few of these abilities actually feel like they have an impact on combat. Even though you'll have your specialized team of bridge officers with you, combat is mostly going to be about trading phaser fire. Your tactical officer will lob grenades that are easily dodged, your engineer will have control abilities that don't fully affect strong enemies, and the medical officer healing abilities are the worst by far. Your hit points will vanish in seconds once your personal energy shield fails, so that medical tricorder isn't going to be very useful. There's also supposed to be a benefit in combat to equipping some team members with weapons that expose enemies, and other members with weapons that exploit enemies. This benefit is so negligible, though, that it's really not worth bothering. Also, the away team members mostly want to run around the map and do their own thing, and trying to control them is a nightmare. But how does this game play as a free-to-play title? The good news is that restrictions on free-to-play gamers have little to no impact while you're progressing to the maximum level of 50. Ship upgrades, new bridge officers, and other level-appropriate benefits are easily acquired through quest rewards. Occasionally, you can even find something reasonably priced at the auction house. Additionally, when you increase in rank every 10 levels, you're given a free ship requisition that gives you a different escort, cruiser, or science vessel. They may not be the best ships in the game, but they're more than powerful enough to get you through the storyline quests, and the ships you have access to when you reach captain rank at level 30 are worth it. You can choose a Galaxy-class cruiser, similar to the Enterprise D from Next Generation, a Defiant-class escort like the Defiant from Deep Space Nine, or an Intrepid-class science vessel like the Voyager from Voyager. Most of the premium content you'll find is cosmetic, at least until the endgame. As far as the bad points for free-to-play gamers, let's start with lockboxes. This is random loot that can only be unlocked by buying a key from the cash shop. It can drop in space or on the ground, and it'll drop on top of loot that you can actually use. There's only one key to pick up items, and you won't know which is the lockbox and which is the thing you actually want. So it's kind of like an annoying pop-up ad that you can't get around. The game will also flash a text announcement in the middle of the screen whenever another player gets a rare drop from a lockbox, so that's another annoying pop-up ad. The bigger problem, however, is all the premium ships they've released that can only be acquired via microtransaction. These are overpowered ships with their own hangars for starfighters that can be deployed to attack your opponents for you. If you like player versus player, this is a huge problem, because a ship from the cash shop with its own starfighters is all but guaranteed to wreck you. You'll also feel like dead weight when it comes to the endgame raids, but it's possible to overcome that if you feel like bothering. Overall, I would say that Star Trek Online is certainly worth playing up until the endgame, just to experience the space missions. In fact, there's barely any benefit to paying for it at all up to that point, unless you have an irrational need for something cosmetic. The endgame is really when things break down when it comes to how much fun you'll have with this game, regardless of whether you're paying for it or not. Like many other titles, it can get repetitive, and it will be especially frustrating to remain competitive if you're free to play. Some people will find it to be worth it to stick around, but once the novelty of space combat wears off, this is a game you probably won't want to spend time on, let alone spend money on.